We are live.
We are live. Well, welcome Mesa Public Schools community. Welcome to our Facebook Live event. It is live this afternoon, and we are going to continue on with our series on our Safe, Strong, Ready plan to open up Mesa Public Schools. And today we're going to be talking about what does modified in-person learning look like. Last week, we had two guests, Kathy Ray, the principal at Porter Elementary, and Jeff Abrams, our principal at our Franklin at Brimhall K-8 principal. And this afternoon, joining us is Mr. Tom Brennan from Skyline High School. A big shout out to Mr. Brennan and our Associate Superintendent, Holly Williams. I am Andy Forlis, the very proud superintendent of this amazing school district that is working around the clock to welcome our kids back on Monday. So let's talk a little bit about modified in-person instruction. We have been communicating with all of you since late August that our plan is to open up to modified in person on September 14th, as long as we meet our public health metrics. So tomorrow is a very important day for us. So September 10th will be the date that we confirm that we will be opening on the 14th. And what we're looking for is that we are maintaining health metrics that allow us to begin what the state and the county call a hybrid learning model that we in Mesa Public Schools are calling a modified in-person model. So what that means is that we have 50% of our students on campus, and that students will be learning with their teacher 2 days per week, and then they will be learning remotely the other 3 days. Keeping in mind that every family has the choice all year long to choose a 100% remote environment. We've talked about this on these series before, but I wanted to do that quick reminder. Also want to remind everybody that maybe you've got some friends that weren't able to join. We post these recordings on our Safe, Strong, Ready portion of our website. So please feel free to jump back and take a look at these videos as you see fit. So let's get started with some of our questions. I know they're going to start rolling in very, very, very quickly. We're going to get started with a really important question that is on the minds of our families, which is, how will families know what group they are in for modified in-person learning? So I'm going to turn that question to Mr. Brennan as he is working with his leadership team and teachers at Skyline, and they're working on how to make all this happen. How are they going to find out how this works, Mr. Brennan?
Well, thank you, Dr. Forlis, and thank you, Mesa community, for joining us today on Facebook Live at Skyline. And it is important that I clarify, this is the things that I will say about our model are unique to Skyline. Some may cross to other sites and be similar, but the things that I'm going to share with you are unique to Skyline. So when we looked at our population, we chose to divide divide our population into two groups at A through K and L through Z. The A through K, last names A through K, is our A group. Last names L through Z is our B group. So let's walk through a day on Monday. The A group will come in person to Skyline. Those who have chosen modified in person will come to Skyline on Monday and Thursday. The B group will work from home on Monday and Thursday. The remote students will be remote all the time, but they're still Skyline students. And that's a very important distinction that we had to make sure we understood, both students, teachers, and staff, that it's not everybody shifting over to the distance learning school, MDLP, and they are remaining with us at Skyline, the remote students. So on an A day, on Monday, the students who are in that cohort, A through K, they come to Skyline and they go through their schedule as it is printed now in your parent portal. We estimate that our class sizes will be anywhere from 5 to 12, maybe 13 students, but more likely 5 to 10, 10 to 11 on those in-person days. Meanwhile, the B group that's working from home on Monday at Skyline, they will participate in that class both through WebEx and through Canvas. The idea is that they will be able to progress through the class at a more or less regular pace. It won't be a full pace lesson because we're coming off of a very challenging time for a lot of our students. Students and teachers will be learning yet another way to do teaching and learning in this hybrid model. On Tuesday, the B group at Skyline, that will be L through Z, the B group comes to school. The A group, A through K, will remain at home and participate via WebEx and Canvas. And the remote students are still remote at home. And it's important to let the folks know, Dr. Forlis and Mrs. Williams, that our remote kids, for the most part, we estimate probably 95% of our remote students will remain with their current teachers. So we have worked our model so that our Skyline students who have over these last 7 weeks have learned their teachers' systems, have built a level of rapport with their teachers and their classmates. They'll stay together. So that remote cohort will also join the class via WebEx and progress at a more or less regular pace. On Wednesdays, as you know, we and the entire district are on remote asynchronous learning. So here at Skyline, that will be the time for teachers to have office hours, especially for those remote students. If they have missed or not captured an important part of the lesson, or they don't understand something in Canvas, they will have Wednesday to drop in with their teachers. And what our teachers do on Wednesday is they open up their WebEx room and students can drop in and visit with their teacher. There could be small group intervention for students that need a little extra help on a concept, review, reteaching, retesting, and really that office hour time for our remote students. They're the priority on Wednesday, but our modified students can also access their teacher on Wednesday. And Thursday, we go back to the A group in person, B group remote, and Friday, B group in person, A group remote. I have a nice grid that I made that I'll share out with families. I sent it last Friday and I'll send it again tomorrow and Friday for our Skyline parents. So when the families log into Synergy, to your parent portal, you will see a tag that tells you which group your student is in. But again, it's primarily by alpha. Now, we have made some adjustments if a family needs that adjustment. So in some cases, a blended family might have 2 different last names in the home. And so we have facilitated a swap, if you will, so that the students can come together on the same day. We have, by the luck of the draw, if you will, one of our groupings worked out where there was one lone student who ended up in the B group, believe it or not. So we moved that student to the A group. So in that class, now all of the A students can come together. So we're willing to make adjustments as we need to accommodate our families and our students. And we recognize that going into this transition, it's going to present new challenges and new opportunities for our kids and our teachers. So I know it's a lot to try to track in your mind without a visual aid, but Monday, Thursday, A group in person, B group remote. Tuesday, Friday, B group in person, A group remote, and remote students are at home all the time, checking in with their teachers on WebEx and through Canvas.
Dr. Forlis, can I jump in real quick?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to compliment Mr. Brennan on explaining that very, very well, and share that while what he described is specific to Skyline, there are components of that are standardized across the district. And the important things I want you to know are the idea that there are 2 groups who have alternating days who attend school, and that the assignment to those groups will come from the school, not from the district. So what Mr. Brennan said is he'll be communicating with Skyline families. So no matter what school you attend, you can expect expect to hear, if you haven't already, you can expect to hear from your building's principal to say, okay, you're a Monday, Thursday student, or you're a Tuesday, Friday student. And they may not call them A group and B group. That's just the easy way to remember it right now. But those kind of things are standardized. How the lessons are delivered and those kind of things will be unique to each school. But the standard things are the fact that there are 2 groups attending so that we can minimize the number of students in class, and the fact that the schools will be communicating the details about what days you go.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate the care that the Skyline team has put together to really create a thoughtful schedule and lots of communication with families. So thank you, Mr. Brennan, to you and to your team. One of the questions that is coming in is around masks. Can you give us Mrs. Williams, you've been working really closely watching all of the health and safety regulations. Can you talk to us a little bit about our expectations for our face covering policy?
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Forlis. There's a lot of conversation around the difference that masks are making in the spread of this pandemic. And the experts share with us that it's one of the #1 strategies in a mitigation plan to help slow the spread of the pandemic. And so when they talk to us, they say masks are so important to your plan. Make sure that that's a solid plan. So what we've said is that it must be a solid face covering that covers your nose and your mouth. It can't be a volleyball net that goes over your face. Thank you, Mr. Brennan, for demonstrating what it should look like.
Talk about a visual aid. There you go.
It can't be a lacy thing with lots of holes in it. It has to be something that is a solid cover over your nose and mouth. We are giving regular mask breaks for students, opportunities to take them off and breathe a little. We all know that that's necessary when you are wearing it for a long period of time. Last night at the governing board, I brought 2 masks because after talking for a while, it just feels good to change the mask out. So we're encouraging families to put a couple of masks in the backpack. If you don't have them, we will provide them for you. We have plenty of masks for our students. We will have for our staff reusable masks and face shields. So you can't wear a face shield without a mask, but it's a nice extra layer of face covering. So we're encouraging all families to be practicing in these next few days over the weekend. Practice wearing the mask. Make sure you teach the students to take them off by the ears. Don't grab it by the nose and pull it off. There's safe ways to take your mask off, and we have great signage throughout our campuses to remind, especially our little ones, about the safe way to wear a mask. You don't wear it pulled down here. You don't wear it holding your chin up, although sometimes that feels good. You make sure that you have it across your nose and mouth to protect to protect yourself and those around you.
And what's really nice is our communication department has created really a friendly looking signage that will be reminders around the do's and don'ts of mask wearing, which we really appreciate, as well as our other mitigation strategies such as regular hand washing and physical distancing. We have lots of dots on the floor to separate and make sure that we all have some adequate space between one another as well. So,
Dr. Forlis?
yes.
So today I met with all of the departments individually to just go through some of the finer points of our plan and make sure we had good understanding across the school. And our teachers understand the importance of face coverings. And I told them that this is a non-negotiable for the students that are going to come remote, and that the teachers, as always, with any behavior modification that we try to impart upon our students, any positive shaping of their behavior, we do so with encouragement, with positive reinforcement. So the intent is not to come in heavy, but it is an important expectation that all students who come to campus, as well as staff, have to adhere to. Would you say that's a fair characterization, Dr. Forlis?
Absolutely. That is a strong, that is our policy, that we will be having, that all students, kindergarten through 12th grade, will be wearing masks, as well as our staff. And any parents that come into the building need to be wearing a mask as well. That's just really important to keeping our schools open. I want to clarify for a bit that we have made a commitment that we are following the Arizona Department of Health Services as well as the Maricopa County Health Services data to open up our schools. So we get what we call the yellow light to open up to modified in-person. We're waiting on that green light to open up to a full 5-day of in-person instruction. And there's been many questions around, so that the metrics open up the school, what closes a school? And so schools will be closed school by school if we have community spread, and that is regulated by the county health department. So the mitigation strategies, adhering to our safety protocols, that is what's going to keep our schools open. And it's really important that the adults in our kids' lives are the models for this and are helping to build those routines. And so when we think about getting our kids ready to go to school, we want to make sure that they've got at least one clean mask with them. They have a filled water bottle. Our drinking fountains will be used to refill water bottles, not to drink from, and that the students bring a fully charged device. They might need some help with a teacher, might need to help them work on some technology. So when they're back remote, they will have an opportunity to say, oh, my microphone's not working as well as I had wanted. And they have a teacher or a tech specialist to be able to help them. So that's important preparation for this modified in-person. So we've got some questions coming in from our community. And one of those is, and maybe this would be great for you, Mr. Brennan, is, will students have an opportunity to walk the building before school starts? I'm thinking about maybe your 9th graders. They're brand new to Skyline. What's this going to look like for them?
Yes, thank you. I'm glad you brought that up. So what we plan to do at Skyline on Thursday and on Friday is to have more or less an open house from 8 to 11 in the morning and from 4 to 6 in the afternoon, evening. And this will go out to all of our Skyline parents. I'll do my first notification tonight. I'm going to do a little bit of info Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to make sure folks are aware. And that is exactly to what Dr. Forlis said, to give the students a chance, especially our freshmen and our new students, the chance to be familiar with the grounds and the buildings and where things are. We won't have classrooms open, but it'll be a free walk around the campus, if you will. And we will have security staff here and administration will be here to help answer questions or direct traffic. But it's really an unattended, let's call it an unattended open house. So unlike our traditional open house where the teachers make a presentation and families move in and out of classrooms, this will be just that free chance to walk around the campus and learn where things are.
And thank you. And we have a question also about kindergarten. If kindergarten parents can walk their kindergarten students to their front door. Can you answer that question for us, Mrs. Williams?
Yes, right now we have each school is developing a drop-off spot where a teacher will meet a kindergartner, and because we have limited the number of parents who are walking into campus, so there will be a designated spot and will be communicated through your school's principal or your kindergarten teacher about where they will greet their students and take them from you in a safe way every day.
And thank you. Thank you. So a little bit different based on age group, and every school is going to be just a little bit different. So please reach out to your building principal. They are working really hard to get all of these plans put together. So Mr. Brennan, you talked about communication to the Skyline community. I'd like to talk about some communication coming out to all of our Mesa Public School community. This evening, you will receive a communication that will have a link to an acknowledgement and a disclosure form, as well as busing and information about meals. Our meal service is changing, knowing that we are, our children that are remaining remote, they have a procedure to pick up meals, as well as our kids in modified in-person. So please look for that through your communication. And then tomorrow, we will be sending out a confirmation that we have hit the metrics and we are ready to go on September 14th. We believe we've been looking at all of our data and all the leading indicators tell us that we are on track to open. So we will confirm that with our community tomorrow. And we will also be sending out videos. So there will be a video on what to expect at an elementary school, what to expect at a junior high school, and what to expect at a high school. So that will be a great opportunity to familiarize your family, your children with that. It's a great talking point. And any questions that you have, please feel free to reach out to your principal. They're a wealth of information. I'll continue on with another question, and I'll send this one over to Mrs. Williams. So, when will we know that it is safe to go to full person instruction?
The county and state have provided a wonderful dashboard for us that we can check every Thursday morning. And that's the dashboard that you've been sharing, Dr. Forlis, that we're going to look at tomorrow to confirm that we believe we're on track to open on Monday morning for modified in-person. The metrics are looking really good for Mesa as far as the modified in-person. Now, to be able to get to the full 5-day, there are 3 measures that they're using, just as they're using along the way. And what it is 5% or below for positivity rates, 10 out of 100,000 case count in the county or in your area, and then COVID-like illnesses or hospitalizations. And currently, we believe that we'll probably hit 2 of those metrics pretty quickly. And the third one being that 10 out of 100,000 cases might be a little bit more difficult to get into the green. They call it in the green because we expect to be in the yellow tomorrow. To get into the green is what it's going to take to get there. I anticipate Maricopa County data is looking really good for the next couple of weeks. So I'm hopeful that we can get to 5 days a week in the next few weeks. I just don't have a crystal ball to know what the data is going to look like. A lot of factors come into that. How much our community keeps their commitment to staying physically distanced and wearing their masks and taking care of hand washing and doing the things that we know that what the experts tell us will mitigate this disease. If the community keeps that commitment, we'll be able to hit those benchmarks. But if people start to get what they call quarantine fatigue, right? They're tired of this and they just don't want to do it anymore. The struggle will be that our numbers may go up, and that would slow our transition into that 5 days a week. So what we're asking from our community is to keep up the good work, because we've made great progress in the last 4 weeks as far as taking the numbers down in Mesa, and we'd like to continue that trend so that we can get to 5 days a week. So we ask your cooperation in helping us with yourselves and your children to make sure that they are wearing their masks, that they're keeping distance, and that they're washing their hands and using hand sanitizers as much as possible.
Thank you. That's perfect. Great to give all of that information together as we think about making those commitments to modified in-person and looking forward to full in-person learning. Here's a question that says, when will we learn if our child's teacher is changing? So Mr. Brennan talked about that you can go into the parent portal and take a look through that parent portal. We call that, you will see that as parent view. You can see if your teacher will be changing. Now, some schools have already updated those and some are still working on their schedules. So the best person, again, to reach out is to the principal to find out when that will be happening for your particular school. So here's another question, back to zip codes and monitoring data. It's amazing what we have learned through this pandemic, and websites and pieces of data that we're monitoring that I didn't even know exist, and now they're rolling off of our tongues. So here comes a question. Some zip codes are still high with positivity rates. How is it safe for them to come back? And so Mrs. Williams, you want to take that one?
Yes, they're still showing high, but they're showing significant improvement. So the zip codes for our district that are still in the red, except for one, all showed significant improvement last week over the week before. And we anticipate that trend continuing this week. We do have one zip code that continues to be a challenge, and we are working with that community on mitigation strategies, supporting the families. We do know that some of those families are making choices about remote as opposed to modified. So we're continuing to monitor that and to work with those principals who serve those communities to make sure that we are keeping up with our health attestations, that we are monitoring students for sickness, and really staying strong with our mitigation plan in the classroom of the masks and the physical distancing and all of those things that go to keeping us safe. So we've always said that we would come in and out as a unified district, that it was important to us to open as a unified district. So we feel very fortunate that our data as a community is looking so much better, and that we are seeing improvement in all of our zip codes. that leads us to feel like we are safer today than we were 4 or 5 weeks ago when the school year started, because of the efforts of our community to make sure that we are creating an environment that is safe for our students to come back. So I appreciate the work that's been happening in homes. Remote learning is not easy, and keeping a mask on a child when you go out is not easy. Keeping a mask on myself is not easy, but it's working, and I appreciate that work. We all do, because it means that we can go back to doing what we know is best, and that's serving our kids in person.
Excellent. Here's a question. I'll answer kind of broadly, and then Mr. Brennan, you can give some details on this one. What if my kids in different schools have different last names? Will their schedules match? And I know that principals have been working together within feeder patterns. So I know that Mr. Brennan has been working with the principal at Smith, as well as Fremont, sorry, right in front of me, Smith and Fremont, to make sure that there's some feeder, there's connection, as well as to the elementaries and to the junior highs and so on. So you want to talk a little bit more about that, Mr. Brennan?
Sure. We're really working with families to accommodate what they need. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a variety of reasons that a family might want to switch their cohort from A to B. And we are keeping track of that as those requests come in. I really can't think, I guess I was going to say, I can't think of a reason why we'd say no, but it might be like we get in typical times where someone says, hey, my best friend's in B lunch. Can I have B lunch instead of A? We're looking for that family need. As I mentioned, there was one case where we had, just as the alphabet broke out, it made sense for that student to move to the other cohort to be with the rest of the class. So we really look at those case by case, but we haven't said no to anybody yet. We want to accommodate those transitions so that this challenging transition is as manageable as possible for the families. And we share with Smith and our elementaries, Stevenson and Patterson and Sousa, our East Side elementaries. But we let that parent know, make sure you contact the principal at that site. In all honesty, it's enough for us to manage our roster and our A and B cohorts. So we have a shared spreadsheet that we're using with the other principals, but we do encourage the parent to reach out to that principal and say, hey, Skyline said it was okay for my son to come on the B day instead of the A. So it's really it's about communication. Communication is so essential at this time, and communicating between school and parent and multiple schools and parents. But we want to accommodate what people need to make this workable for them.
Thank you again, Mr. Brennan. I know the collaboration among principals has been something to be incredibly proud of. So, and the work is not easy, but you guys are doing whatever it takes to get it done. I appreciate that. Okay, Mr. Brennan, you're back on the hook. What about classes like welding and automotive? What does that look like at Skyline?
Great question. And I have to give a big shout out, high five, hug to our CTE teachers here at Skyline, our career and technical education teachers, and specifically in automotive and welding. These are two very large, very successful programs for us at Skyline. And Mr. Slate and Mr. Roberts, our teachers in automotive and welding, respectively, have come up with a very innovative, creative way to support all of their students. So the remote students, as I mentioned earlier, the modified in-person will come on their A day and their B day, and they will have access to the lab and the equipment and the hands-on work. The remote students, what their intention is on Wednesday, they will have a 2-hour small group lab just for the remote students in automotive and one in welding. And there's about 34 students in each program. The teachers will conduct close-up demonstrations, live streamed, of the hands-on activities. For example, here's the tire machine, here's how we change out a tire. And they might spend an hour, hour and a half on the tire machine with a live feed that will also be recorded, interactive questions and answers with their students. And here's what I think is really that shows the creativity of these two teachers and their desire to keep all of their students together. We spoke with Dr. Mallerwine this morning, another one of our area superintendents, about creating a lab opportunity for our remote students on Wednesday afternoon. So our welding and our automotive teachers are going to host small group open labs for those remote students that are willing and able to come in. So a caveat in this is that those families must provide their own transportation to get their child to Skyline, but then that child will be able to get lab time in a small group on Wednesday with his or her welding or automotive teacher. So that was one, I think, a really innovative way that those two teachers, they wanted to retain all of their students, because in some cases it's challenging to do certain electives remotely when you have to create or put your hands on the equipment or the car or the torch. And they're finding a way to make it work and to keep their students together, as are most of our students here on most of our teachers here on campus.
Excellent. Thank you. Great explanation. Okay, talking about A and B days, can a student choose one day A and one day B? I'm thinking that's 2 thumbs down.
Yeah, that's a no, because we have to plan for our staffing and our class sizes and balancing things, and we can't have students floating in and out of their group at this time.
Well, excellent. And we are seeing, appreciate all of the work that you're doing to communicate that. And I know that you're making every opportunity available, but that's just not something that is reasonable or doable for us. Lots of questions coming through on our Facebook live questions around. They really are, families are requesting communication from their school. They want to know so that they can plan. And so I appreciate the work that you're doing at Skyline. Quick question, and maybe we can hear 2 different answers, elementary and secondary, around what will lunch look like. So when you receive the videos tomorrow, you're going to see examples of elementary, junior high, and high school lunches. And again, we're trying to make those videos that they could encompass all of our very diverse schools across our district. So Mr. Brennan, why don't you talk about lunch, what you're planning for lunch at Skyline, and then Mrs. Williams and I can talk about elementary.
Sure, glad to. And I had to go back to my numbers because we talked about this today. So we estimate approximately 465, 475 students per lunch period. So at Skyline, we're going to have 2 lunch periods, and half of our population being here on Monday and Thursday, and the other half on Tuesday, Friday, minus the remote kids, which for us is about 600 kids. When you split that into 2 lunches, it's going to be around 465. Really, I didn't account for seniors because many of our seniors have a 4-period day and they will depart. So I would say on the low end, probably 460, 430 per lunch. And I've been to all of the high school campuses. Mrs. Williams can talk even further about this because she knows each of the campuses better than I do, but we have a very generous space for our dining area. There's the inside cafeteria, the outside ramadas, and then 2 other outdoor areas that we're going to make available to students. So 450-ish students will really be able to spread out nicely during the lunch hour. I'll defer back to Mrs. Williams for exactly how food is being served, because that will look a little differently than typical. We'll have we have teachers that work at their lunchtime to be lunch monitors. So that will be in place, as well as our administrative team and security team. And I really like our numbers. I don't know if it's even feasible to run a high school schedule that could get normal lunches down to 460 kids, but That's a really nice, I know it sounds like a lot, but when you think of our typical lunch being over 1,000 students, it's really a nice sized group to manage and to monitor. And I think it will be a welcome relief for the students to come and be able to spread out safely socialize with their friends, and then we and my colleagues being out there to monitor and make sure that they're observing distance and mask wearing.
Thank you.
Our junior highs have similar plans. They're going to have maybe more lunch periods to accommodate, and they have fewer students. And so they also are going to utilize all the space they have to allow kids that socialization time in a safe physical distancing. And then at our elementaries, many of them will be serving lunch in the classroom because they already have the physical distancing set up. And Mr. Brennan mentioned about the food distribution. It's going to be a grab and go situation where kids can go in, get their food, and come back to the room. And then at the elementary level, you know that parents know that lunch is attached to recess. So just as they always are, they'll have their lunch and then they'll be given an opportunity to play. And that's where we really think they'll have a nice long mask break as opposed to the short ones that we'll give throughout the day. The recess is really going to give them a chance to kind of run off some of those wiggles and get out there and take those masks off and enjoy themselves and have that socialization at the high school that looks a little differently at the elementary. But we recognize the value of recess. We recognize the value of physical activity, and those things are still part of our schedule.
Mrs. Williams, since you spent many years working with all of the high schools, do you want to talk a little bit about the spacing and what that might look like at some of the other campuses?
Yeah, you mentioned the outdoor patios. All of our campuses have adjacent patios to their cafeterias or out on the main campus, ramadas with picnic tables, places where kids can be. They have amphitheaters where kids can space out and sit on the grass. I mean, we're designed for very large numbers of students. And like Mr. Brennan said, we feed thousands of kids at lunch. So it seems like a very nice luxury to be only feeding 470 at a time, because it will be, like he said, very, very easy on most campuses. Now, of course, Skyline's smaller than a school like Mesa High where there's more kids, but it's still, a fraction of what they're used to. And so they have space for what they're used to. And so that means that they'll be able to spread out nicely throughout campus. And I know that teachers are being flexible and opening their rooms and allowing kids to come in there and eat if they feel like that's comfortable. I know that they're using some in the heat. They'll have some unconventional spots that perhaps they'll open to allow students to come in if it's too warm under the ramadas, to maybe go in the gym or other places that are available to them. So I know that each campus is creating opportunities for students to spread out and still have that socialization time, so that they don't, you don't want to come to school and just have 6 hours of academics. A lot of kids come for that connection to their friends, to their clubs, to all of the things that make school. And it's important that that's maintained on all of our campuses.
Well, we are coming to the end of our time. It's about 4:38. I'm going to squeeze in one more question, and then that will be our reminder back to our communication. There's a question about, are the bus routes running normal on Monday? Same routes, same stops. That information is coming out this afternoon. It'll talk about meals, how that's going to work, as well as transportation. So make sure that you check that communication that is coming your way. And again, tomorrow will be the confirmation that September 14th is the day that we welcome our children who have chosen Modified in Person back, and that you will see those 3 videos as a way to help to get ready for this transition. So I want to say thank you to all of you. If we have not gotten to all of your questions, please, please, please reach out to your principals. They have teams that are working really hard on getting schools opened up. It was a pleasure to have Mr. Brennan. Mr. Brennan is not only the principal of Skyline, but he is the parent of Mesa Public School graduates, who one graduated from ASU, one who was a freshman at ASU, so you know all this navigation looks like, and also to Mrs. Williams, who has 2 girls that have graduated from Mesa Public Schools, and one is currently a preschool teacher. So we really share a huge perspective of the work that is happening not only in our schools, but in the loving homes that our children are in. So we want to say thank you very much for joining us. And we are looking forward to sharing more information with you this evening. And again, tomorrow, to confirm that September 14th is our day for Modified in Person. So again, Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.